to Daps Travels, the first episode of Daps Travels, I should say. I'm Mr. Daps, and I'm joined by Johnny, my co-host, for this adventure on Disney cruising and beyond, whatever we come up with, right?
Exactly.
It's going to be Disney cruising. It's going to be Walt Disney World, Disneyland Paris. I'm going to Tokyo Disneyland soon, so we'll probably have to talk about that as well. But we're starting, and predominantly we'll be focused on the Disney Cruise Line, which since 1995, people have been having the most magical sail on Earth. Was that what we call it?
Was it 95 or 98?
Technically 95, and then it became official in 98.
Oh yeah, because that's when they originally incorporated, and then the Magic launched in 98.
Yep. Do you remember the old big red boat?
Yeah, because on Premier Cruise Lines.
Yeah. So there's kind of that, like, it's been a magical cruise since 1995. You've been on a Disney cruise. I have not, but I've been on other cruises. We're going to fix that at some point. You'll get to come along with us when we do. Actually, I'm going to ask you first, even though we were going to ask me first, but I changed my mind. How many cruises have you been? What cruise line?
I love how this is what the intro for me is, because I have been on one entire cruise. I know that's so many different cruises, but I've been on one singular cruise in my entire life, and that was aboard Disney Cruise Line. And I was very lucky to sail aboard what is considered amongst the fandom as one of the most revered ships, the Disney Fantasy.
Which is a beautiful ship, but that's just your Disney Cruise Line experience. I'm also going to turn this a little bit and ask you about your Disneyland/Disney fandom experience. How far back does that go, and where's your favorite place in all of Disney?
See, that I'm definitely much more experienced, because being from the beautiful area that we call Southern California, I have grown up going to Disneyland my entire life, ever since I can remember. I practically grew up at the Grand Californian. I mean, that's kind of proof in my username that I use on all my social medias.
Exactly.
But I have been a huge Disney fan. Funny enough, my first ever visit up to Walt Disney World, though, happened during the pandemic.
Oh, wow.
In the height of the pandemic, like September of 2020, I saw that they had rates that were incredibly cheap.
I think I went right then also. It was very cool. The parks were empty. It
was really weird seeing the park so empty, but I also didn't know what to compare it to, because I'd never been out there before. I could only compare it to what Disneyland.
Same again.
So, and I've heard so many people be like, oh, it was like this, it was like that, it was so cool pre-pandemic, and I'm just like, well, I have nothing to compare that to except my tiny little castle that I have in my backyard, so.
And what's your favorite attraction, ride, whatever, of all time?
Now that's really hard, because
I know.
I'd have to say my all-time favorite attraction is specific. It's a Small World holiday.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
So it's only around like 2 months at most out of the whole year. So
beautiful.
Yeah, it's my favorite.
Okay, I'll answer the cruise line question and cruises also. I have been on, I think, 3 cruises in total. I've been on Carnival, Royal Caribbean, and Princess, and one time each. So I've been on 3 cruises, and I feel like I did it the right way, where I did Carnival first, and then I did Royal Caribbean next, and then I did Princess. So things just kept going up. And honestly, I'd probably do any of them again, because they all are fun in their each unique way. And Princess was my favorite by far, though. Like, good food, great service. Alaska was beautiful.
I'm so excited to go up to Alaska soon.
And you're going on Disney Cruise Line, which I feel like adds that extra level of magic. And we'll definitely be talking about that as well. What do you love most about cruising?
Honestly, what I love most about cruising is I, truth be told, tend to be very high strung. And in my day-to-day life, I very much focus on the things that I need to do, and I can be somewhat high stress at moments in time. So I love the most about cruising is that I completely checked out of everything, and I have never felt more relaxed in my entire life.
Is that because you're contained and it's like you're here and you like it's the structure kind of thing?
I think it's a structure kind of thing to where literally no matter what the circumstances, I can't do anything, whether it be really work related. Well, that's kind of a line now with my new career path, but I don't feel the obligation to do anything work related when I'm on a ship. I can go down to a little coffee bar and get my coffee super early in the morning, go ahead and sit on my veranda and just relax, maybe read a good book, hear the ocean waves crash by, just smell like the nice salty sea breeze as the wind is hitting up against me. It is just so relaxing.
And people bring you food and drink.
Honestly,
Like, that's pretty epic too.
My favorite thing about Disney Cruise Line was the 24-hour room service, because I abused that by ordering so many chicken tenders.
I was gonna say chicken tenders or grilled cheese or whatever. I would agree with you on almost all of that. I always do bring work with me because I run Daps Magic, so I will be up early every morning, and usually I go out on a deck and find like a fun table or something and grab a cup of coffee, and I'll work for a couple hours. And that's always a blast, just because where else, like, what other career path do you get to sit on the deck of a cruise ship and work as you go by like whales or I don't know, like,
not that many.
No, it's pretty impressive. And there is the downside of like you're working every day even when you're on vacation, but it's fun work, and I love that. I also love with cruising the fact that you like, what I love to travel, but like when I go to Japan later this year, I'm going to be in this hotel for a couple days and then that hotel for a couple days. So you have to pack and unpack and then move it and then pack and unpack and then move it. Except you unpack and then pack, but you know what I mean. Cruise line, you literally get to your stateroom, you unpack, and that is your home for however long you're on the ship.
It's so convenient because it's just a floating hotel that moves you from place to place.
And they clean up after you.
Exactly.
It's so nice.
You don't have to worry about everything. Obviously, don't live like a pig and make sure your stateroom is still all relatively
But the thing
clean,
I love is they make my bed. Like, that's a little simple thing. And like, I've probably pulled it up, but it's wrinkled. It's,
I love that, and the little towel animals.
Yes,
The towel animals, my favorite part.
Exactly.
I loved going into the stateroom and just after being
and they
done
take
with
your
dinner,
dishes.
Yeah, it's
like
everything.
That part too. Yeah.
It's just full service. Like walking, it's like a little, like your fairy godmother just walked in, waved her magic wand, and then poof, everything was all nice and clean and tidy as to what it was prior.
Well, and we went on Princess last year for my birthday, and on my birthday, they made a towel animal, like multi-tiered birthday cake that was decorated. It was so cool.
That's so
yeah, and
cool.
I was just like, I didn't even have, like, that wasn't even the back of my head. Like, I was like, oh, I'll get a cupcake or something, you know, like.
Yeah.
And then it was like, I walked into the room and it was probably a good, like, 18 inches tall, if not taller.
That's insane.
Like, and it was just sitting on the table there, and I was like, oh, this is the coolest thing ever. And it was there for like a day and a half, and then it disappeared.
I love that.
Yeah.
For us, we had like a shark one day, a shark that was like spread all the way across the bed because they used the bed runner.
Did you think shark bait, ooh ha ha?
Exactly. I had to think that. And then we had a monkey. They actually had a monkey hanging from one of the hangers. They grabbed one of the hangers and they positioned it on the ceiling.
That's so cool.
And they even got these little stickers to put like little eyes on them too. So it was like little googly eyes. And just
that's
like, this is the cutest thing that I've ever seen. And I just wanted to like pick it up and then put it in the closet and then take it home with me.
Fair. But then it's not the same magic.
But then I found out that in the gift shop on Fantasy,
and I think it's
on board all Disney Cruise Line, they have plushies. And it's like an like the towel elephant plushies.
So here's my question. If you could have any animal of a towel animal, which animal would you want them to figure out how to make?
See, my answer is really not creative because I would really just want a towel cat version. Or a towel cat that's like a version of my cat Pumpkin.
Perfect.
Because I can imagine having real Pumpkin, and then you have Pumpkin dupe
on vacation. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking of penguin because I love penguins, and I was like, and they have the penguin cartoon, like it would totally work. Where have you loved traveling the most on the Disney Cruise Line cruise that you went? Like what destination, I guess?
The destination. So we went to 2 destinations. We actually went to both of Disney's private islands on the Disney Fantasy.
How rough?
And it was honestly like so taxing, just getting into the port, whatnot. I'm kidding. It was so easy. I absolutely loved Lookout Key at Lighthouse Point.
Nice.
I did not know what to expect, mainly because I'd never been on any of them before, and I've heard so many things about Castaway, especially because Lookout being the brand new destination it isn't even a year old yet.
Yep. And I remember when they announced it at D23 Expo years ago.
Yeah, it was stunning.
That's cool.
I just loved specifically how they paid respect to the Bahamian culture, and they really went out of their way to tie in different aspects of Bahamian culture and the native people of the Bahamas and everything that they represent.
Still with their Disney twists.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, I love when they do that.
They made this beautiful oasis that still paid respect to the local natives and the culture and everything that they represent.
And you can only assume it's going to get better with time. Like, because that depth is going to grow and they're going to be like, oh, we can do this or whatever.
Exactly.
Also.
I do have to say it was funny because the island was so new, seeing all of the little baby palm trees that they had.
Oh yeah, because they haven't grown yet.
And seeing how they had like the little wooden posts holding every single tree together, because the wind would have just toppled all of them over by themselves. So that was kind of funny to see that, because
first storm and they're all gone.
Normally you expect whenever Disney makes a new land or something like that, there's a couple of those trees, but when it was every single tree like that, I just thought it was funny. It didn't detract from the experience at all, but I'm just like, oh wow. Well, it really made you think how new and how much effort that they put into it.
I would think that would add to the experience in some ways. For me, I'm going to go with Skagway, Alaska. It's one of my favorite places going up as a kid, but also getting to stop there and go on the train and explore the town. It's a very, like, I can't wait to hear what you think of the Disney version of that, because I'm sure, like, it'll be similar and different, I'm sure. Like, it'll be, it's really about the destination in that port for me over any individual cruise line.
That's what I've heard specifically about that, because we stop in Skagway and we're actually doing 2 separate excursions while we're in Skagway.
Which 2?
So we're doing the train.
As you should.
So we're doing that.
I would disown you if you didn't do the train.
I mean, I would disown myself, honestly. I'd be like, how could I go up there and not do that?
Adult and childhood experiences, having done it twice now, that, like, I tell everybody to do that.
So we're doing that, and then we're also doing the Glacier Explorer by helicopter, to where they take us up in a helicopter up to the glacier, and we get to walk around. And
dive when they come back. It's so funny to watch.
I did not know that, and I think we're gonna have to shield that from my parents.
Yeah, don't let them listen to this.
Yeah, so they, Mom and Dad, if you're listening to this, you didn't hear that.
No, it's very fun. No, you can tell the talent of the pilots though. Like it looks. You're like, oh, you're Top Gun. You're good. All right, where would you like to go in the future? Any destination that exists or doesn't exist?
Honestly, I would love to just do a transatlantic cruise.
Okay. And where would you like it to depart from and end?
I would love to have a transatlantic cruise actually start in New York.
Okay.
And then sail all the way across, because I know Disney Cruise Line offers it twice a year for the eastbound and westbound, and they make stops in Portugal and Spain. I would love to do something like that, but then also I would love to have it maybe make a stop in Southampton.
Okay.
And then go all the way up to the fjords, because I would love to go explore the Norwegian fjords and then go to Iceland.
Very cool.
Especially aboard a cruise ship, because I just want my hotel to move with me. I would rather not have to worry about hopping on a flight, dealing with a bunch of different customs and whatnot. And I'd just rather be like, okay, well, one day I'm in port here in Norway. The other day I'm in port over here in Iceland. And then the next day I'm in port back in New York City. There we go.
That would be cool. I'd love to do, there's a couple of lines that do London or outside of London that go up into Scandinavia and the fjords and all that. And actually, I was looking at that for the summer at one point and decided to go to Japan instead. But I have family that live in Norway, and like I don't really know them, but I've always seen pictures and heard stories, and like there's a familial connection to Norway, and I've always thought that'd be super cool to go and explore there. And I think a cruise is probably the best way to do it. I also kind of wish that Disney had some of its smaller ships doing that, because I feel like you can go cooler places. Maybe some of the new ships that are coming up in the future, like really go in. I don't know.
It's actually really funny you mentioned that, because for the longest time, I actually thought the Disney Dream was the primary ship that went out to Europe, and it was not.
Is it the Wonder?
The Magic.
It's the Magic. I was like, I feel like it's also one of the older ones.
The Magic was the one that primarily did the European cruises, and when I found that out, I was just in shock, and it kind of makes sense.
Does it go up to the fjords?
Yeah,
I remember it going down to, doesn't it go through like Greece and stuff like that?
So even right now, all their European itineraries do that. So when the Fantasy is actually about to make its voyage out there. It actually departs on my birthday.
Nice.
So the Fantasy is going to be going out there and doing the Europe sailings during the summer, and they do the Greek Isles around the Mediterranean, even going up into the Norwegian fjords.
See, that's I would want to go on. I mean, I've seen there's also cruises that go up there that are like for 150 people, like really small. And I kind of would love the idea too of like Adventures by Disney doing something like that with like a real targeted ship.
I think I think Adventures by Disney offers some stuff
They
over
do
there. I'm not
Norway.
quite sure.
I don't know if it's cruises. I do know they do Norway.
I don't think it's the cruises.
But I would love, mainly just because going back to you got one room for a week or 2 weeks. Like a lot of those are 10 days to 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I think that would be super cool. So I guess we both want to go up to the Northland, the true Northland. All right. So you went on the Disney Fantasy in November of last year. It was your first time ever stepping on foot a Disney Cruise Line ship.
Yes.
And it set off this passion, I'm going to say, that actually has grown and led to this.
Passion, hyperfixation, they're both synonymous.
What's the difference? They're all the same. It's just how you frame it, right? So you wanted the Disney Fantasy. You went to both destinations that Disney owns. And I guess start off, like, what was your room like? Where did you stay? What was the food like? Stuff like that.
It was actually really funny because prior to us getting on the ship, we actually flew into Florida the day before because from the research I had done before, do not fly in the day your cruise departs. You do not want to risk any flight delays and you not being able to make it on the ship.
Agreed completely.
So we flew in the day prior and we stayed at Saratoga Springs Resort across from Disney Springs for the night, and we utilized the Disney transport service that they offer, taking us to Port Canaveral.
How long did that take?
It took about maybe an hour or so.
That's
it really
bad.
wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
The process, it was actually really nice because in the lobby for Saratoga Springs, they actually took care of all of our check-in stuff. So we showed our passports and everything like that. So we didn't really have to do that.
Oh, like these there. The airports.
Yeah. So it was...
and their testing for their credit.
It was really, really nice.
That's cool.
So when we were there, they just had to, again, just like verify our passport information with our port arrival form.
So it's basically everything you'd normally do at the cruise terminal. Is that what I'm hearing?
Pretty much.
Nice.
And then after that, we just went through security and then went upstairs. But it was different for us because when I initially booked this trip, I was a clown and I forgot that whenever my parents like traveling anywhere, they like to stay in concierge or club level. And when I initially booked this cruise for us, I failed to take that into account.
Oops. I mean, because in some ways, when you're on a cruise ship, you already are getting some of those amenities.
Exactly.
So it's an easy thing to like, oh yeah, whatever.
And on top of that, I didn't really know what I was doing. So I was kind of just winging it based off of some research that I had done online.
Yeah.
And I just blanked on it. But we were very lucky. So after we were through security and we were in the waiting area, we went up to the manager's desk and inquired if there were any concierge staterooms available. And they had told us that there was one singular stateroom available on deck 12. And we looked into it and it was a pretty substantial upgrade from the room that we had because we booked a regular, what Disney calls deluxe family stateroom with veranda. So it's like a regular stateroom, but the family portion adds a Murphy bed, so it gives you a little bit more space. So it's a little bit more of an expanded cabin.
Sure.
And this was going from that room to a 1-bedroom suite. So after talking it over with my family and whatnot, they kind of checked out, the pros and cons, and they're like, this is our first time doing this. We'll go ahead and pay for that upgrade.
So along with the upgraded room, what are the other perks of concierge?
There are so many different perks of concierge. Some of them we didn't get to utilize simply because we upgraded at the port, and vast majority of some of the concierge benefits that they offer are like the priority booking and the priority embarkation. So
explain priority booking for people that may not have been on a Disney cruise line before.
So Disney Cruise Line, kind of with a lot of other cruise lines, does your booking for the little excursions and onboard ship activities.
Would you agree with me as we talk about this? Use the cruise line's excursions. Don't go with private parties.
I can't speak to that per se.
I will say use the cruise line's excursions, because if you use theirs, you are guaranteed to get back on the ship. If you use somebody that just happens to be at the dock or who you found online, there is no promise that if they're 5 or 10 minutes or 15 minutes late, that you will get back on the ship. Where if it's Disney or Princess or whatever, they pretty much guarantee they're going to take care of you and get you back on the ship. All right, keep going.
I'm trying to figure out what I was saying.
Priority.
The booking. So Disney has a loyalty program called Castaway Club, and there's 4 different tiers of it. You have silver, gold, platinum, and the new one that they introduced with the 25th anniversary, Pearl. Silver is after you have completed 1 cruise. Gold is after you've completed 5. Platinum is after you've completed 10. And then Pearl is after you've completed 25.
Just a few.
Just a few, just super casual. But you get different booking windows for booking either port adventures or onboard activities. And one of the benefits for Concierge is you get to book 130 days in advance. So you get the top priority of what to book.
Before Pearl, or is it the same as Pearl?
It's before Pearl. So it's 7 days before Pearl.
Okay.
So booking opens 130 days out, and all you actually have to do is you just have to email the concierge team.
This is what I'd like to do or whatever.
Yeah, you just email the concierge team. So, hey, this is my name. Here's my confirmation number, and here's my stateroom number. These are the activities I would like to do on these days. On the Disney Cruise Line website, under Port Adventures, they actually have different categories for their different destinations where you can go ahead and select it, and it shows a little number identifying that port adventure.
Sure.
So you go ahead and just fill in all that stuff. And this also applies to the different, beverage seminars that you want to take on the ship too, because they have different beverage tastings.
Does it also encompass like dining reservations into?
Yeah.
Okay.
It also comes with whether you're dining at like Palo or Remy or Ashante, you can go ahead and request those reservations as well.
Nice.
And then at 123 days out, once Pearl is able to book their stuff, your stuff will be available in the Navigator app for what you requested. So
cool. That's kind of when everything goes live.
Yeah, we weren't able to utilize that amenity for November when we sailed. However, I was able to utilize that amenity for when I go to Alaska next month.
And you love it.
And it was perfect because we were able to secure every single excursion that we wanted to. Because I even heard that the Glacier Explorer was one of the most coveted ones that sells out really fast, and we were able to secure it.
That is cool. That is very cool.
But that's one of the amenities of Concierge. The other one is priority embarkation at the port. So Disney Cruise Line has different port arrival times that guests are scheduled to arrive at, and then you have different boarding groups that you get. With Concierge, you are given boarding group 1, and you are not given a port arrival time. You can arrive at the port anytime you want.
Oh, so you just show up.
Yep, you just show up.
That's cool.
And once they check you in, they actually give you a little gold sticker that they advise you to wear, because that's how they designate you being a concierge guest. So when you are walking through the waiting area, the crew members can go ahead, see you, and flag you down and go ahead and escort you onto the ship through a priority lane.
You don't have to wear the sticker the whole trip though, right?
No, it's really just on embarkation day. So it makes it easier for them to identify.
Got it.
Because everybody enters through the same area, so they can identify what guests are concierge, so that way they can direct them. Because you also get a private concierge lunch in one of the restaurants. It's only the restaurant that's directly off of the atrium.
Cool.
So
is there a private concierge lounge?
There is.
So
every
it's
ship
kind of like concierge on a Disney Resort hotel where there's a special place for you guys to go.
Exactly. It's like that, but I would have to say it is significantly more elevated in regards to the level of service that you're getting, the attentiveness and everything. It is just spectacular.
And it has food and drinks and you name it.
Emphasis on drinks, because one of our favorite amenities was from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. It was happy hour.
Oh, okay.
And it wasn't just like how it would be at a Disney Resort hotel where they have beer, wine, and cordials. They had a full bar.
Wow, that's impressive.
So it was really nice. And on embarkation day, that bar is open the entire time.
Okay.
So we were able to go up to the lounge and go ahead and have all of our little drinks and everything like that. It was
cool.
Fantastic. And it comes with a private little sun deck.
Nice. So then what was your room like?
I really have no words for what our room was like, because keep in mind, I love staying at the Disney Resort hotels, and I don't know what it is. I'm just a fiend for a really cute, really well thought out hotel room. I just love the space. I love the thought that goes into it. I literally screamed when we walked into our stateroom because it was spectacular. It had 2 full bathrooms, which is something we weren't expecting. So
that's a gift.
It was really a gift. So
how big were they?
They were well sized. Like I'm pretty tall. I'm 6'4". I was able to stand in the shower comfortably. Okay. And be able to take care of everything. And it was the super nice.
Footprint for the room pretty tight, or was it like
the room was very spacious? I'd say the room was, I think on the website it said that the suites were around like 600 square feet.
That's
or
big.
Something like that. Okay. So it was a pretty big space. So it had the area that had the bed. So it had the king bed
Yep.
in there, and there were doors to partition it off, and then it had the master bathroom, which had a very large soaking tub, shower,
Okay.
dual vanities in the master bathroom, and then they had the smaller bathroom, which I utilized throughout the duration of the cruise. But then it had like a little desk to where you could go ahead and do work on. My dad, you actually utilized that desk to go ahead and do some miscellaneous work while we were on the cruise.
I understand that.
And then we had a small little dining table that I later on found out that because we were in a 1-bedroom suite, we can order our dinner, breakfast, lunch, and dinner from any of the dining rooms and have it served in the room because we had a table.
Instead of just room service, you get like...
Yeah, we can get our full meals brought up.
Specialized. That's cool.
So that was really nice.
So where did you sleep?
I slept on the pull-out couch that they had right in front of the TV.
Okay.
But then the best part of this room was the veranda. I did not know what to expect because I was thinking, no, it's just what we originally booked. It's a small veranda. It was, in fact, not a small veranda. This veranda was approximately the size of our stateroom. It was massive.
And talk about where it was on the ship, just so people can kind of visualize how it has the ability to be so massive.
So our room was located on deck 12 forward. And if anybody that's listening is familiar with the layout of the Dream or the Fantasy, you have 3 staterooms that are located on deck 12 facing forward that would kind of have like the same view that the captain from the bridge would have, because we were actually located just above the bridge.
Yeah, which I was geeking out about when you were on the trip.
So we had that exact view just positioned looking forward at all times, just seeing like we were looking out at the open ocean, seeing where the ship was navigating. It was
insane.
That
is so cool. I can only imagine like my perfect world is exactly that, but in Alaska. Because can you imagine going through the inside passage and just seeing all of that opening up before you?
I wish that the Magic and Wonder had staterooms that were like that on those ships. But I know. How dare they not think of putting those types of rooms there when they were building those ships in the 90s?
New ships are coming that are smaller that might be able to go to Alaska. Maybe we'll get something.
All I'm asking for is Disney Cruise Line, if you're listening to this, can I please get a ship permanently positioned out of San Diego?
I feel like there's the possibility.
I would be on that. I would be Pearl status. Within like 2 years.
I was just saying, you would be so fast. You'd be like, hey, I found a last minute cruise. You want to go?
I found a last minute cruise. Let's go, guys.
I guarantee the group chat would get that at least like once a week. Maybe once every other week. But, you know, it would be fairly frequently. What'd you think of the food?
Truth be told, some of the food was really, really good. And there was one restaurant that we went to. It was called Enchanted Garden. I don't know what happened. I'm guessing it was maybe just a bad day because after doing some other reviews that I've seen on that restaurant tends to be really good.
Oh, okay.
My food was inedible.
Oh, that's too bad.
I had this scallop dish that had this rice with it. The scallops, it was almost as if I was eating like a rubber tire. So they were like very, very rubbery.
Yeah,
and
I mean, it's easy to do with scallops, but
yeah, it was easy to do with scallops. So I'm just like, you know what? I get that, especially when I'm thinking, you know, they're in the galley trying to get everything done for so many guests. It's easy to oversight that. So I really couldn't fault them for that. It just sucked. It did have some asparagus that was really good. So I did like the vegetable portion, but it had this rice that I don't know what it was, but it was this red rice.
Huh. Like a saffron rice or something? Or
I'm not sure. Okay. But I couldn't eat it.
That's too bad.
And that's a lot coming from me because I pretty much eat everything.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're pretty.
I'm very open-minded. Yeah, I'm really easy to please, and I tried it. I'm just I actually can't eat this.
So what was your favorite then?
My favorite had to be the specialty dining that we did. We booked Remy, which is the high-end specialty dining that they have on the Fantasy. So the Fantasy has Palo, which is going to be.
Did you do that also?
We didn't.
Okay, so that was. Was that the one you couldn't get into because...
That is the one we couldn't get into. It was so booked out because one of the...
But in the future, you totally could because...
Exactly.
Concierge. Got it.
Palo is also really hard to book sometimes last minute because part of the platinum gift aboard Disney Cruise Line is you get a complimentary dinner or you get a complimentary meal at Palo.
That totally makes sense.
So if you have a lot of platinum Castaway Club members on your sailing... Good luck. It's going to be really, really hard to get into Palo because they're going to be like, well, I want to eat there.
So what'd you have at Remy?
They have 2 different menus. They had an American menu and they had a French menu.
Oh, that's fun.
Spoiler alert, we loved it so much the first time we went back twice that same cruise.
Wow.
Because we just loved it that much. So I actually got to try the American menu and the French menu.
Which one did you have twice?
So we did dinner twice.
Oh, so you did, and then you did it brunch or something?
Yeah, we did the brunch.
I do remember this now. So you wouldn't choose between American and French for brunch, or would it just be?
It was just like a regular, like standard brunch menu.
Okay, so you got one of each.
Mm-hmm. So we got one of each. I really love the French menu the most.
Okay, I mean that's where my brain kind of went. Was like, oh, you got the opportunity for good French food, like I'm there.
It was phenomenal. I love caviar.
Mm-hmm.
That caviar was some of the best caviar I've ever had.
What else did they have?
I'm gonna actually have to go through my camera roll because I, truth be told, cannot remember, because I wish I also took a picture of the menu, and that's something I'm kicking myself for.
But you're gonna learn for the next time, because now you're gonna be like, oh, I need menu pictures, and that makes all of the difference in the world.
The only menu picture I actually have is from one of the lounges that I went to get a nice little beverage at.
Okay.
But that's about it.
So if you were ranking all of the restaurants you've eaten to date on Disney Cruise Line or any cruise line, you can go back to this in a second. Are we safe to say Remy is your top number one?
Remy absolutely is.
And then what would be 2 and 3?
2 would have to be Animator's Palette, because that was one of the other rotational dinings that we did. And then 3 would have to be Enchanted Garden. We didn't eat at Royal Court, which was the 3rd rotational dining restaurant. And so for those of you that are listening, Disney Cruise Line kind of pioneered rotational dining. So instead of having a big dining room that you eat in, you are given a set dining time, and you go rotate through 3 different table service restaurants throughout the duration of your cruise, so you can experience different menus.
And your server follows you, is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. Your serving team follows you. So our serving team, even though we only dined with them twice, they were spectacular.
That's awesome.
The second time we were there, they had already remembered our names. They already remembered our drink orders. They already knew what we liked. It was
jackpot.
I was shocked.
That's cool.
It was absolutely insane. I'm just like, you guys remember this? We weren't even here the first night.
That's cool. So back to Remy, and we're going to keep coming back to your top 3, because I feel like as we go through more experiences and more cruises, we'll keep changing that top 3 and see how that goes. But so back to dinner at Remy. Tell us about it.
It was phenomenal. So I'm looking back at the menu that we had, because I had the French menu. I started with this. It was this, I think, a spuma that was underneath a little wafer that they had.
Okay.
So it was just spectacular, and then it was really neat because they really said that you have to just like crack it and to try to crack it open and really try to get a bite of the espuma with the little wafer. It was phenomenal.
Which means they had to basically plate it and get it to you pretty quick, so that it stays the textures.
The caviar that we had was absolutely divine. The presentation of it was fantastic. I loved it. My next dish that we had, it was these little, I want to say they were like gnocchi. Okay. That's what they kind of resembled. Okay. But they were delicious. They had these little, they each had these different green leaves on top of them.
Oh, so okay.
I forget what it was. I want to say one of them was watercress, but I'm not quite sure.
That would make sense. Yeah.
So I think some of it was watercress, and it had this little foam that went with it.
Okay.
Divine. Again, I'm doing such a horrible job at explaining these because I do not have the menu in front of me.
But next time, after this next trip.
Oh, and then scallop. I totally remembered that now, looking at this picture. This scallop.
Oh, so you had an amazing scallop and then a subpar scallop. That makes the subpar even worse, doesn't it?
So the funny thing is, I had the amazing scallop first, and then the subpar scallop.
It didn't stand a chance.
So yeah, those tiny little rubber scallops didn't really hold a candle. No, they couldn't if they tried.
There was no.
But this scallop that I had was so delicious.
Was it like the kind that like almost like cuts like butter? Kind of thing? Yeah.
Like I had my fork and I remember slicing into it, and it just cut so easily. I'm just like, I was in shock. I was even looking at my parents. I'm just like, are you seeing this?
That's awesome. Did you do any of the quick service?
Yes. So we did end up doing, so I did room service. I did the buffet, and I did the deck food.
Okay. And do you have any like favorites or standouts for that?
For me, nothing beats chicken tenders at 2 a.m.
That's what everybody says.
So those room service chicken tenders were phenomenal.
Nice.
I do have to say Cabanas, I was really impressed with. That's the buffet that they had. I didn't know Eggs Benedict could be on a buffet.
They can. Because Princess actually does a pretty good job with that.
So impressed.
That's awesome.
The English muffin on it wasn't like rubbery. It didn't seem soggy or anything like that. The yolk and the hollandaise, I was just so shocked at
I
how
would
good
be
they
eating
were.
that every morning if that was like, that's my definition of a perfect breakfast.
It was phenomenal.
What did you think of the entertainment?
Oh my God, I could keep going on and on and on about the entertainment on that ship. It was fantastic. Leaning back to one of the amenities that we get for Concierge.
Yeah.
So Disney has the Walt Disney Theater where they perform the Broadway caliber shows. And the standard procedure for that would be guests line up outside the theater and wait for the doors to open to get their seats.
Sense.
Concierge gets escorted down 40 minutes before the show. And you get your first dibs at seats and you get free popcorn.
Nice.
And what makes it even better is that I can go up to the concierge lounge and get a couple drinks to take with me
down.
And they allow you to bring it down into the theater.
That's great.
So was I double fisting to Cosmopolitans when I was going into the theater? Absolutely. And I enjoyed that with my popcorn and it was spectacular.
And which shows did you see?
We saw about 10 minutes of Aladdin because we forgot that the show was going on. So we just peeked into the theater.
Oh, okay.
And then we left. And then we fully saw Frozen and Believe, which is the signature show that they have aboard the Fantasy. And that show made me cry.
Oh, wow.
It was so well done. I love the whole storyline behind that. I love when Disney is able to create a really different storyline that ties in with the different characters that they have, but it's something original.
Yeah.
And that's what I really enjoyed about that. So Believe, it was such a fantastic show.
Don't you kind of wish they did that more in the parks too? Like the domestic parks? Because like Paris gets kind of that stuff and Tokyo gets that stuff. And like I would love to see, we have this big Hyperion theater. Like I don't know what it would be even.
Disney, again, if you're listening to this, I am not really creative in the slightest, but maybe lean in a little bit to like what DCL is doing.
I mean,
contact their entertainment people because they're doing it really good.
And do remember, the new president of the Disneyland Resort did come from DCL. Like I think,
please put something in the Hyperion Theater. I'm begging you.
That would be so cool. Did you do any of like the like character moments or like kind of?
I'm truthfully not really a character meet and greet person.
Neither of us are, but yeah.
I kind of just watched them.
Okay.
When they were wandering about the ship. And that was about it.
That's fine.
Going back to just standard entertainment, though, there was so much live music. So much live music.
Which I think if it's done well, that is one of the other major perks of cruises. And I've seen it done well and I've seen it not done well. And I won't say which and where. But when it's done right, it is one of the most relaxing, magical things you can have on any ship. Keep going.
On the Fantasy, they have an adult-only area called Europa, which after hours kind of turns into a bunch of different nightclubs based off of different places in Europe. Mm-hmm. So they have the Skyline Lounge, which goes through different skylines of different cities around the world. They have Ooh La La, which is the French-inspired champagne bar. O'Gill's, which is like an Irish pub. They have the Tube, which is supposed to represent kind of like London Underground.
I'm all for that.
And then they have La Piazza, which is supposed to be Italy, and it's based off of like a carousel.
Nice. Okay.
It was fantastic. Ooh La La was the piano bar, so I found myself in there.
I would be cool with that.
Quite a lot, especially during happy hour when they had drinks that were 30% off. So I went ahead and walked in and got myself a nice little elder bubble cocktail, which I can actually reference what this is because I took a picture of the menu. It's Absolute Raspberry, Saint Germain, liqueur, and Moet with... It says Chandon Imperial. I think that was a little bubble that they put on top.
Oh, okay.
But
very cool.
It was so good.
Nice.
It was absolutely amazing and not very expensive. I think it was $10 in total during happy hour, including tax and a 20% gratuity. So very cool. Well worth the money. But I love sitting there and just listening to the piano player play a bunch of different music. They were playing anywhere from Disney classic tunes to just music from all around the world. And then they were able to play some Taylor Swift. So
I was actually just about to ask, did they play Taylor Swift? Because I got a piano player on, actually, I think Royal and maybe also Princess to play Taylor Swift.
It actually was very fitting because the song that the piano player was playing was Champagne Problems in the Champagne Bar. So I absolutely love that. I was sitting there with my friend and we were just both of us were kind of crying. We're just like, is this really happening? This is so insane.
That is Disney magic. So you went to both of the Disney destinations.
Yes.
Give us a brief overview of, maybe just do it in the order that you went to them, I guess. What did you do at each of them? What was it like? Highlights, any words of advice?
So words of advice on your day at Castaway, if you are really wanting to explore the island, don't do what I did and sleep in.
Oh, okay.
I
thought you were going to say something like wear sunscreen.
I slept in until 10:30 a.m.
Okay.
And all ashore was 8 a.m.
And how late do they stay?
4:30.
Oh yeah, that is a little bit tight.
So I lost a couple precious hours of what I wish I could have done exploring the island, but I still made it on the island by 11 a.m. We actually booked an excursion at 1 p.m. for parasailing. So for the 2 hours that we had in between, we went over to Serenity Bay, which is the adult-only section of Castaway Cay. And it was really nice getting over there because they have, in the main part of the island, they have the kid area and they have the family cabanas. So we walked around and explored that a little bit. But then when we hopped on the tram, it was really neat because we actually got to drive down the runway that they had there for when the island was used. I forget what the island was used for before, but they had the runway there, and it was really cool driving by because they actually have the letters spelling Castaway Cay in the runway in the big paint print.
Okay.
So we got to see those letters when we were driving down over to Serenity Bay. But then when we got there, it was so nice. I found myself a nice little hammock. I got a little Mai Tai, and I just sat there sitting in pure island bliss, hearing the ocean waves just crash up against the beach, the soft sand over there, crystal clear blue waters, this nice like tropical music playing in the background.
I was actually going to ask, was there music?
It was phenomenal.
That's awesome.
Phenomenal. I loved it.
Did you have any food on the island? Were there entertainment offerings?
There were entertainment offerings, so there were a lot of like characters that were going around and doing that. We actually didn't get any of the food because we had a late breakfast on the ship.
So you're fine.
So we didn't need to do it. And lunch is offered from, I think, 11:30 to 2.
Okay.
So it's only offered for a couple hours.
You're not going to be hungry yet.
So we didn't do that. But we were in Serenity Bay for a little bit, kind of just relaxing. And then we noticed the time was 12:30. So we're like, oh, shoot, we have to go get back to where the boat rentals are and get on our boat to go ahead and go parasailing. So we made our way back over there. And it's actually really nice over there where the boat rentals are because it's right where the ship docks.
And is that something Concierge set up for you also?
So this is actually something I booked in the Navigator app 75 days out because that's what my booking window was, and that was one of the only excursions available that they had.
Got it. Fair.
If I was able to snag a cabana, I would have snagged a cabana, but unfortunately wasn't able to.
Okay.
And it's really nice over there because the photo op at Castaway with the ship is one of my favorites because the ship backs in to the dock.
Is that the photo that we used on our thumbnail?
Yes.
Okay, there we go.
So you actually can have a beautiful picture of yourself on this little viewpoint over there posing with the stern of the ship. And I really loved that because our stern character was Dumbo. Yeah. And I adore Dumbo. So it was really cool getting a picture with all that. And
so that was before you went
yeah, that was like right. We were like waiting for everything because we showed up.
So right in that area is where you would go.
Yeah.
Okay.
They said to wait over here, so we waited over there. I'm just like, oh well, this is a perfect opportunity for some pictures.
Nice.
So went ahead and did that, and then we got all set up for parasailing. That was so much fun. I have never done anything like that before, and I would absolutely do something like that again.
Nice.
I've done zip lining, so I kind of assumed like it was going to be somewhat kind of similar to zip lining in the fact that you're high up in the air.
Sure.
But this was just so amazing.
That's awesome.
I loved it. It was really cool just getting all positioned up. And it was really cool seeing the island from such a high viewpoint up there. You could see all the nature. You can see everybody playing down in the water and the ship too. And you saw a beautiful aerial view of the ship. Yeah. They said that you could have taken your phone up there. I was not going to risk that because
can you imagine dropping it?
Yeah, me being Butterfingers, like it's going to become one with the Atlantic. I'd rather not do that. So
the phone, I was totally like, oh yeah, it's awesome. And then you said the phone, and like I literally got a shiver down my back of like, oh, that's a bad idea.
Yeah, I really, as much as I would have loved to do it, I only would have done it if I had like one of those lanyards around my neck.
Like
but
they
I
made us wear for Tiana's when they opened it. Yeah. What about the second port?
Second port, we had some excursions booked for my parents. Both of them were canceled
because of weather or what?
That was not communicated. So they were just canceled. We were not given a reason, anything like that. So we were a little frustrated in that regard, but
Fair.
that wasn't Disney Cruise Line's fault because they're all third parties that Disney Cruise Line works with.
Sure.
So we just did our due diligence and we filled out the survey and explained how frustrated we were at the lack of communication on their end, because even DCL, when we asked them why they were canceled, they couldn't provide us a reason because it just showed that it just disappeared off of their system.
That's frustrating.
So I thought it was,
I would think.
So I thought it was just really, really odd. But I absolutely love Lookout.
Can I ask? Let's actually start with Arrival, because did you do the tram on that really long?
So we did not do...
Is that a pier, wharf, whatever they call it?
The pier. So the pier is a little over half a mile long.
It looks awesome.
It is awesome, and I appreciate Disney building that because Princess also has a destination on that same island, just a little bit further north. And they have to tender their guests over at the island.
Yeah.
Because we actually saw a Princess cruise ship tendering people to the island, and we were like,
slows things down so much.
We were like, wait, what's going on? Like, what are they doing over there? That ship has just docked so far. And that it made sense because they didn't want to have to dredge any of the coral over there because the coral reefs themselves are already so fragile.
Totally.
So Disney just made the call to build the dock out so that way their ships could dock and it would create a better guest experience.
That's crazy.
So
did you walk it or did you ride it?
We ended up walking it there and back. My mom ended up taking the little golf cart caddy that they had back to the ship because she was having some problems with her knee.
That makes sense.
But she walked it with us all the way over there.
How long did you have to wait for the tram coming back?
I think she only had to wait like 5 minutes.
Oh, okay. So it really
was not bad.
Okay.
And it would have been better had we scheduled it ahead of time, but they were still super accommodating for us.
Cool.
Getting that all taken care of because they were really understanding of guests that, maybe thought they could do it and then recognizing
it happens all the time
that they weren't able to do it. But I really enjoyed the walk, especially because they have speakers playing music down the entire walkway.
Talk about great photo ops for the ship, like as you're walking. Like, I just think it looks really cool. So you get on shore. What's the first thing you do?
Purchase a Spirit jersey.
Of course. You are the king of Spirit jerseys, I feel like.
I saw this amazing Lookout Key at Lighthouse Point Spirit jersey that was red, and it had like
Did both locations
canoe.
Have a gift shop?
They did.
Okay.
At Castaway, this was the one flop on my end because we were so like scatterbrained going everywhere. We completely missed the gift shop on Castaway.
You forgot to get a second Spirit jersey. Okay.
I will be fixing that, however, when I do go back.
Yeah,
because I will be going back to Castaway somewhat soon.
Perfect. So you get your Spirit jersey. What else do you do?
So in the area where you originally land, it's called Mabrika Cove, and there's really not much over there.
You have to go to the other side, right?
Yeah, you have to go to the other side. So in Mabrika Cove, that's actually where they have all the cabanas.
Okay.
So that's where they have all the family cabanas.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So they're over on that, and so it's really aimed towards like all the families that they have over there. And then to get to the other area where they have the beach and the splash pad, that's the Goombay Cultural Center.
Okay.
So
Is that where like all the buildings and stuff are too? Okay. Yeah.
So we took the tram over there, and it was about like a 10-minute ride over there.
So that would have been a walk if you... I don't even know if they let you walk, but...
At the time, they were not allowing anybody to walk on the route. They didn't even have any of the bike rentals or anything like that open yet. They had the nature trails available that guests could walk on, but they didn't have any bike rentals or anything like that.
Interesting. Okay.
I think that might be changing soon if it hasn't already.
All right. We'll keep our eyes on it, huh?
But we took the tram over there, and once we got off at the tram depot over there, it was just beautiful. They have elevated boardwalks going around to different parts of the island to alleviate any of the nature or anything like that. So they really tried to minimize, I think, the disruption of all the natural environments over there.
Okay, that's cool.
Because a lot of the things are on elevated platforms.
Nice.
So it's elevated above ground.
Because you said that first, and I was thinking like, oh, in case flooding or something, but it's probably to protect.
I think a lot of it
also.
Because I also recently watched the documentary that they had about making Lighthouse Point, and a lot of it really tied into the preservation of the island. And Disney really wanted to put a conscious effort into preserving as much of the natural landscape there as they could have. Which is
something I love about Disney when they do that stuff.
And personally, I think they did a very, very good job of preserving a lot of the natural elements there. Because even the buildings that they had, the covering for them seemed very natural. They looked like leaves and everything like that. It was just phenomenal.
That's awesome.
So we walked over there, and then, of course, because I'm with my family, we immediately go to the adults-only area because we're thinking, there's a lot of kids over there. We really don't want to interact with all that. We kind of just want to relax. So we go over to the beach. And this was before my family had found out that their excursion had ended. So they were just walking with me over to the beach so I could get a beach chair.
So they're just like trying to take care of you a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, okay, got it.
Because I was just showing them where I was going to be so that way after we could meet up. So I go ahead and find myself a nice little chair on the beach, and I go ahead and just grab a drink from the bar. They actually had attendants walking up and down the beach, taking orders, whatnot. So it was like really nice.
Here's a practical question that just popped into my head. For meeting with your parents, did your phones work down there?
Yes, they do have Wi-Fi on the island.
Oh, okay. There you go. That answers my question.
The DCL guest network does extend
and is that
to the island.
So that would be like the same as if you purchased it on the ship, it extends, or does it just work for anybody on the island?
I think it's the same as if you purchase it on the ship.
Got it.
The way Disney does it is you can purchase, I think it's like 3 different tiers that they have, because they have one that's strictly like messaging, so like iMessage and WhatsApp and things like that. Then they have what they call the basic surf, which is a regular internet package that's pretty much everything but streaming.
Okay.
And then they have the premium one that includes
otherwise
streaming.
Known as the Daps plan.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
They had that, and then we were actually lucky because one of the other benefits with Concierge is you get internet included with your stateroom depending on what caliber of concierge stateroom you book. So for a regular family veranda stateroom, you get 24 hours, a 24-hour window of internet, complimentary.
Got it. And then you'd have to pay for the rest.
And you have to pay for the rest. For a 1-bedroom suite, you get the basic surf included for your entire sail.
Okay.
And for the royal suites, and well, now the tower suites, you get the premium internet included for your entire sailing.
Interesting. So that's a reason for Daps to be on one of the fancy rooms someday.
It's honestly, it was actually really nice because we looked up the cost for the internet. I think it was like almost $200 per person.
The whole trip? Or
yeah,
it's pretty common.
So it was that, and I'm just like, well, that's an expense that even if you did book with Concierge, you have that you have that ease knowing
it's getting
that
baked into that price then.
Yeah.
That's cool. And you felt like it worked pretty well-ish, or like
I was actually surprised because I heard a lot of people
I've heard
tend
mixed.
to have issues with Disney Cruise Line Wi-Fi. I didn't have any problems.
Okay.
It actually worked really well for me.
Even on the island.
Yeah, even on the island. I was able to utilize social media, which I was surprised.
Now that I'm thinking about it, you were texting us pretty much the entire trip. So what'd you do after your parents discovered they weren't going anywhere?
So I had actually fallen asleep on the beach, and
that sounds painful.
It was because I'm also thinking, I don't really wear a lot of sunscreen when I go out anywhere in general, just because I've been out in the sun for extended periods of time and I don't really burn that much.
Yeah.
And then I kind of forgot that, I'm way closer to the equator and the tropics than I otherwise would be back home.
And
therefore, the UV and the humidity and everything like that. So I burned pretty bad on my front side.
That's not fun.
But I actually got a text from my parents. They're like, our excursion got canceled. We don't know what we're going to do. So I went ahead and just tell them like, let's go get lunch together. We can try to figure out a plan of what we're going to do from there.
Yeah.
So we go to the Serenity Bay barbecue, and that's where we actually had food on the island.
Nice.
Because they had True 2, and Serenity Bay.
Okay.
And Serenity Bay was again for the adults.
Sure.
Went over there. I had a chicken sandwich.
Okay.
Some ribs. They had some sides.
Okay.
I think they had like jerked chicken or something.
I would assume that would make sense.
I didn't know if I wanted that because I really was just craving a chicken sandwich.
Sure.
I don't know what it was about that. I'm just like, that sounds so good.
Yeah.
So I went ahead and got that. They had the different fixins and stuff like that you can get.
Cool.
So that was really, really nice. And then we just sat down, had our food, and we went to the bar to get a drink. And then after that, we kind of just wanted to walk around on the beach because my parents had
not
really
explored
much.
Yeah.
They loved walking down on the beach because the beach had this beautiful pink sand. I've never seen sand this color before. It was spectacular.
Which I don't think comes through in the pictures.
It doesn't. It really, you have to really go in there and like actually see it. And
Interesting.
It was fantastic.
Okay.
The water too, like I have never seen water that clear before in my entire life. And you could see the little fish, like the little baby fishies swimming up in the water.
That's fun.
Because what I also found interesting about Lighthouse Point is that all the beaches there weren't like netted in or anything like that.
Oh, so you just...
Versus Castaway Cay, where I think Castaway Cay is more catered for that typical like island castaway type vibe, and that's what they're really going for, and they're really trying to cater towards that Disney. It's very Disney forward over there.
Do you think also just a sign of when it was built? Like, I wonder if they went back and made Castaway Cay today, if they would be a little more deferential to conservation and not, I don't know, like...
I really don't think so, because I think the whole objective of Lookout and Castaway, while they are very similar in the fact that they are private island destinations, they accomplish two separate things.
Okay.
Lookout Cay is, I would feel, for somebody that's much more on the adventurous side, that wants to really experience what the culture of the Bahamas is.
Sure.
With that sprinkling of Disney magic. And go ahead and see what all the nature and everything like that is. Whereas Castaway is something very much more curated for a vacation destination.
Disney forward.
Yeah.
Okay.
Disney forward, for example, you can go snorkeling in the water over there, and they have the different statues and things like that you can find underwater. Lookout didn't have anything like that.
That makes sense.
And it was very much more focused on nature. And the best way I can describe it is kind of like how they described Shanghai Disneyland when it first opened, where it was like it was like Chinese, but like distinctly Disney.
Yep.
Lookout Cay felt very Bahamian, in my opinion, with that sprinkling of Disney.
That totally makes sense.
And I really like that a lot, because as anybody that kind of knows me, my mantra of why I really like Disney a lot, and I like a lot of the hotels, is because it's very nice and accomplishes what the theme is, with a little sprinkling of Disney magic in there.
No, I totally agree with that.
I don't like the very in-your-face styling of a lot of things.
Sure.
And I like it to be very subtle, and that's what I loved about Lookout. It was very subtle, and it was just spectacular. I cannot give it enough praise.
Cool. So you're definitely going back there. Talk about the service on the ship, and I guess on the islands too.
I've never experienced anything like it before in my entire life.
You do a lot of Disney, like you're Grand Floridian, Grand Californian, like you know the Disney difference, I guess is a good thing to say.
Going into this cruise, I had a very high standard going in already, because as Daps just said, I am a frequent stayer, like pretty much say like a frequent flyer of the Walt Disney World Resort hotels and the Disneyland Resort hotels. Yeah. I've stayed at almost every deluxe resort out at Walt Disney World, and I've stayed at every resort out here at the Disneyland Resort multiple times. And I've grown accustomed to what that Disney difference and what that Disney service looks like. And I've never been let down at any of the hotels out here before, but hearing what I've heard about Disney Cruise Line, I knew to expect more. So my expectations were definitely risen, and they were blown out of the water.
That's awesome.
The level of attention and the level of service that everybody gave us was just absolutely amazing. From the fact that as I said earlier, our dining room servers remembered our names, remembered our orders and everything like that after meeting us one time.
That's a gift.
It was fantastic. And then a great example I could think of with Concierge is that my mom fell in love with the bed runner that they had on the bed. It was super soft, super plush. She just loved it, and she really wanted to take it home. So when we were in the concierge lounge getting drinks one day before going down to the Walt Disney Theater, she had just jokingly mentioned to the host that, if the bed runner disappears, will I get charged for it?
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah, you would, but we have them in the shop. And she was like, no, I just wanted to see if if I could take it. And she was like, yeah, okay, I get you. We finished watching the show. We're back in our stateroom. And then we hear a knock on the door. And it's our concierge attendant that brought up a brand new bed runner from the store and told us that if we would like to take it, we were more than welcome to take it, and that our onboard account would be charged for it. And if we didn't want to have it, we could go ahead and just leave it in the room, and then our onboard account would not be charged for it.
Well played.
And it was right then and there. I'm just like, that's
the extra mile.
That's the extra mile. I'm even trying to think of a lot of other luxury resorts. Like I'm trying to think of maybe the Four Seasons. You'd probably get service like that.
Something in New York or Paris.
Something very, very niche. Like I wasn't expecting that.
That's awesome.
And just the entire treatment, like the staff, the entire time we were on the ship, they were just fantastic. I actually had the unique opportunity at the very end of our sailing. There was a manager or a leader of some kind that was in the concierge lounge talking to one of the attendants. And I was actually talking to one of the attendants, trying to say how I can give my best regards in regards to what our experience was like
your
on the
guest
ship
compliment type thing.
Yeah. It turned out that crew member that was there was actually the hotel director for the ship.
Nice.
So I was able to directly tell her in regards to the stateroom attendants, the concierge host, everything like that the crew was absolutely amazing and blew my already high expectations out of the water.
That's awesome.
And the service for us really solidified us going back on Disney Cruise Line, because a lot of people think Disney and they think, oh, families, oh, characters. It's really meant for children and stuff like that. I'm 26, soon to be 27, and I love traveling with my family. And we continuously book Disney, and we go to a lot of Disney destinations because the caliber of service that is provided for us. We went to Universal in 2024. And
is that in Florida?
Yeah, in Florida. Okay. We went to Universal Studios Florida, and we stayed on property at the hotels over there. And it was just such a stark contrast.
Were they the same, I don't know, deluxe level or whatever their iteration of it is compared to Disney? Or?
I'd say like in between a moderate and a deluxe. It was like their equivalent of Coronado Springs.
Oh, okay.
That's the best way I can describe it.
Thank you. Yeah.
So I knew to expect really good service, and we truth be told didn't get that. So we even talked about after that trip when we were leaving, because we had been to Walt Disney World the week prior before going to Universal Orlando. And we even discussed it on our way back that we like Disney because while it is more at a premium, which is understandable, and I could go on and honest about how I might not agree with some aspects of that, it is still it still retains the same value for us that it always has throughout the years. And we just love going to the parks, getting that experience. And now with the cruise line, it unlocked literally a whole new world in the words of Ariel.
And a whole new level too. Yeah. It'll be fun to see as you go on more cruises too.
I said that wrong. Oops.
How they compare. I know what you meant. How you compare the different ships. Like, that's going to be fun.
I'm so excited.
Like, that's going to be really cool.
I'm very excited to be going on board the Wonder. Because I've heard from a lot of people that the Wonder is their favorite ship.
Which is amazing.
And I think it's really interesting because when you compare a lot of other cruise lines, a lot of people have these newer, larger, grander ships as their favorites that have been seasoned, experienced cruisers with those specific cruise lines.
Yeah.
And then you have a lot of Disney fans that have been sailing with Disney Cruise Line forever and that say, oh, my favorite is the Wonder. My favorite is the Fantasy.
Yeah.
And I think that really shows, and it's a testament to how Disney is able to craft such a quality product and
in unique ways.
But also maintain it, because you step on board the Magic and the Wonder, you wouldn't be able to tell that those ships are 25 plus years old.
Right.
You'd be looking there and you'd think that they were maybe commissioned 5 years ago, because
most
the
cruise
level
lines
of
would
maintenance.
Be retiring them about now.
They would be retiring them about now, but then also you just walk on board and you can just tell how it's weathered and how it's aged. And Disney continuously puts in the money and invests in those ships to keep them up to date and up to par, so that way they can continue utilizing them.
It's totally true. I remember seeing the ship up in Skagway when I was wandering around and just looking at the outside of it compared to the other lines. Like Disney, you could tell, regularly repaints, regularly cleans, like they're really taking care of their ship. And we noticed Princess was doing that also. But we also noticed other lines that had, the streaks of rust and the calcification of stuff on the outside. We're just like, oh, that doesn't look so great. And maybe it's not a safety issue or a structural issue, but there is something to be said to taking pride for your product and that first look, that first impression you only get once. And if you walk up and you see your ship's dirty and rusty and whatever, like that's setting some sort of a tone for the rest of your cruise. And I really appreciate that Disney goes so far to take care of its ships and make them look beautiful. Thinking ahead to the future, there's a lot coming with cruise lines or Disney Cruise Line and ships, and you can either choose with ships that exist or will exist in the next year or two. what are you most excited about in the future? Let's stick with Disney Cruise Line.
I am very excited about the new ships that are supposed to be put in commission in 2029, 2030, and 2031. Because
I think that's what we both are, to be honest.
What they said, because they said these ships are going to be larger than the Magic class, but smaller than the Dream and Wish class, and accommodate about 3,000 passengers.
Yeah.
That makes me very hopeful that we're going to be getting some ships that will be going on a wide variety of itineraries.
Yeah.
Makes me think, because the Panama Canal cruises that Disney Cruise Line offers right now, they sell out in a heartbeat. Yeah. Like, everybody wants to go on them.
Yeah.
The 2026 Panama Canal crossing has been sold out for months.
Right.
So it makes me think, will they be having multiple Panama Canal cruises going? And then I also saw in an article that was published that Disney Cruise Line applied for preferential rights for Avalon beginning in, I think, 2027.
Yeah.
So that makes me think that we might be getting a permanent positioning of one of these ships out here on the West Coast. Which would be amazing.
Or any ship. Like, we'd take it.
Because as it is right now, when Disney Cruise Line is only out here on the West Coast out of the port of San Diego, it's only here between March and May before it makes its repositioning cruise up to Vancouver to start the summer season in Alaska.
We could use more.
So and there's the demand for it too, because if you look at those sailings on the Wonder, a lot of the room categories are sold out, and they book very far ahead of time because a lot of people want to be able to experience that. And there's so many different destinations that you can go to, whether it be you can do a Pacific Coast cruise up to Vancouver and Victoria, maybe with stops in Seattle.
Also looks fun.
Stops in Seattle, stops in San Francisco. Yeah. Even maybe Astoria, if you can get to Astoria. That would be fantastic.
I totally agree. And to add on that, I'm excited to see how they add the Disney difference in the theming for these. Like, you think of the different approaches they've been taking recently for ships, whether it's Treasure, Destiny, Adventure. Like, they've done really some incredible things when you think of, like, this is on a ship.
It's been such a stark difference from the Classic 4 up to when the Wish debuted in 2022. Because I remember when the Wish first debuted that a lot of people were upset because Disney changed up the formula.
Yep.
And for me, I don't understand why a lot of those people felt the need to get upset because it's still a stunning, fantastic ship.
And it's not taking anything away from what already's here.
It isn't. I love the 4 classic ships because of how those ties to the 1920s cruise liners and how the atrium is all this burnished wood paneling, these ornate, wonderful chandeliers.
It almost makes you feel like you're in a movie or something.
It really does make you feel like you're in a movie, and it felt like the golden age of the cruise era. Versus now with these newer ships, I feel like they're able to combine the storytelling that they are known for along with those modern touches, but combining them in a way that still feels regal and luxurious and still
Disney.
Distinctly Disney, but also conveying the effect of you are stepping foot into the story. Like I love how they're going with the theme of these new ships, how on the Wish class ships, how they all have a theme, how on the Wish it's themed around princesses and fairy tales, and it's much more whimsical. And the Treasure is themed after Adventure, which is kind of funny when you have the ship that's actually also called the Adventure.
But you know,
how the Treasure
was a surprise.
How the Treasure is themed after Adventure and going out there and finding something. And then you have the Destiny, which is themed after heroes and villains. So I really like how they are going outside the box, and they're really pushing the boundaries as to what the cruise experience can be. Because when a lot of people think of the cruise experience, it's relaxing. I'm going to get the drink package and just day drink. I'm going to go to the casino.
Chicken fingers and fries.
Yeah, and they're really trying to create something that is a destination to where the ship's sailing to these other places. That is part of the destination, but one of the main parts of it is the ship.
Which I think is a perfect transition. Disney Adventure is a ship that will be sailing from Singapore starting in December, which is shocking. And it has no destination. It literally, you're going to go out, the ship is the destination, and you look at what this ship is going to offer, and you can kind of see why. And we've been geeking out about the adventure for a while now, and I'm still blown away because we just got the float out, what, a week ago, last week?
It was actually on, yeah, it was on Saturday?
Yeah, it was
it was on Saturday.
So just a few days ago. That's a massive ship. Like, we knew it was big.
When I saw the ship floating out, I was like, oh.
I also would say...
I was in complete shock.
I will also say it's way more beautiful than I expected.
You cannot tell that ship looked the way it did before.
Right.
And I was very pleasantly surprised, especially, not to say anything, but considering the track record that we might have had recently with some rethemes and restructuring.
Some things don't always work.
Of certain beloved things within the parks. I was very shocked to see that this ship was really transformed into something worthy of the Disney name and the IP that comes along with it. And
it has that really classic Disney Cruise Line look and feel, and it doesn't even have its
the smokestack.
The smokestacks, thank you. I'm like, the things on top. But like, it's not even complete yet, and you already, like, you see it coming out, and you're just like, oh, that's pretty. Like, it's just a beautiful ship. So what do we know about the Disney adventure at this point? Because we don't have to hit everything, but let's hit some of the highlights.
I'm really trying to think, and I had a thought in my head, and I just blanked it.
Because I was on my, like, wherever path.
I know, so it's a totally different ship than what we're used to seeing, because it was built by an outside company, so Disney really had no control over what the ship's construction would look like.
Yep.
They're more so retrofitting it. Because if you look at the ship, it very much resembles a lot of the
Royal Caribbean
Oasis,
ships.
A lot of the Oasis class ships that Royal Caribbean has with that large central park area that they're calling, I think it's Imagination Garden.
Which is a brilliant way to approach that, and that is one of the things I actually really liked on the Royal Caribbean. We went on Harmony of the Seas, but I loved that garden through the middle. I don't think I'd want any of the rooms that look down into it, because that was just kind of weird to me. Like, why would you spend extra to look? Maybe some people like that. I don't know. I'd rather see what's outside of the ship. But it's a nice way when you're on the ship to kind of get outside, but not really. And like, it's a nice difference.
I would see those rooms actually being very appealing for guests that might be uneasy about being out
on a ship,
out at sea, and might have a fear of the ocean, but they still want to experience a cruise.
Totally fair.
But you still get the benefit of having a veranda versus an ocean view or an inside stateroom.
And in this case, you're also probably going to get a view of the shows that are happening in that garden, whatever you want to call that. And there is a Marvel superhero show thing happening there, if I recall correctly. And also is there Duffy and Friends happening there too?
They have the Duffy and Friends show.
And they're using technology so you can kind of like change things up, which is brilliant. I think that would be the big reason to stay, actually, as I'm verbalizing this in my
I think
head.
There's that. And then when we were talking about other things that the ship has, I'm excited to see what the attractions they are that have, because I've seen that there's a couple roller coasters on that. And
there's 3 rides on this ship.
Yeah. And
like, crazy.
That's really cool to me. I think that's going to be something really, really fun to think about. I'm just like, to me, it's just mind-boggling having a roller coaster, anything of that caliber on a ship. I'm just thinking how you're floating through the ocean. How does that work? Like, I'm not an engineer. I know nothing about physics or anything like that. So it's just like mind-blowing to me how stuff like that works.
I also think it's interesting. It's really focusing on the stories of Disney, Pixar, and Marvel, and Star Wars is not included, which I think is probably a mark of the demographic of where it's going.
I was going to say, I think that is 100% with intent.
Oh, it has to be. I mean, Disney doesn't do anything without intent. They have a bunch of 7 areas in the ship. So you have Disney Imagination Garden, Disney Discovery Reef, San Francisco Street, which I think will be a blast, Wayfinder Bay, Town Square, Marvel Landing, and Toy Story Place. They basically have crammed a Disney theme park, in many regards, into this ship that will carry like 6,700 people.
I did think it was interesting that they also reduced the capacity of what the ship originally was.
What is it now? Do you remember?
No, I think 6,700 is what it is
the
now.
New one? Okay.
And I think it was something like 75.
And they said
like
2,500 crew members, if I recall. That's amazing.
So you're pretty much having a continuous floating city out there on the water.
Yeah, that's like more than an aircraft carrier.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane. I am very curious to see this up against, or not up against, but like I would love to see it next to another Disney Cruise Line ship.
I would love to see all, because it would now be 4 classes technically.
Yeah, like 1, 2
ship
lined up.
I'd love to see the Magic lined up next to the Dream, and then the Dream lined up next to the Wish, because those 3 get progressively larger.
Yeah.
And then you just have the Adventure, which is this massive ship that that dwarfs all of them.
Exactly. Yeah, it's gonna be insane. It already has, like, people are booking on it, I believe, already, right?
Oh yeah, there's
in December 15th it's maiden voyage. Is that what I recall?
I'm pretty sure, because I know the maiden voyage is still available to book last time I checked. I think they literally only have like 2 staterooms available, but they were on the website.
But they count.
But they count. But that's also insane to think that the maiden voyage for that ship, that's going to be fully loaded with people. This is going to be, I feel like this is the equivalent now of what would be a new Disney theme park opening.
I mean, very much so.
This pretty much is, because like how you said, it's all these different aspects of a Disney theme park combined onto a ship, because you have the different so-called lands that one of the parks would have. And they're all very distinct. They have their own theme. They have their different draws, different characteristics, and everything like that. So I think that would be very, very interesting to see. I know for a fact I want to get on that ship.
Oh, I do too.
Of course, the only thing stopping me is the fact that it's in Singapore.
15 hours away, something like that. We actually have a friend of Daps Magic that lives in Singapore, and he visits usually like once a year. And so he always gives me updates on both on the ship, but also on like what's going on from the Disney World over in Singapore, and he's also very good at like travel stuff. Surprisingly, like it's really great. Like he's like, oh, you can do this, you can do that. Like I guess he does it more than we do because he's further away. The other thing I'm really looking forward to this ship is, they have that moment with every cruise line ship or Disney Cruise Line ship where it goes down the river as it's going out to sea. Mm-hmm. And it always looks really big, and they usually have the picture of like, oh, here's this little field with sheep in it, and you see the ship go by.
It's actually funny that you mentioned that, because it's actually like that in Port Canaveral when you're sailing out of Port Canaveral. They actually have cars that are parked along the jetty over there, and you see people waving to you.
Oh, that's fun.
From the ship and everything like that. There's different point of views from people on the ground to where they'll even record the ship's horn.
I've seen
when it's passing by,
that makes sense.
And it's right over there, so it's really funny seeing that. I could only imagine what the adventure would be like.
Like it's gonna be like we just saw it with the Treasure last year, I guess, but like it's gonna be, and hopefully we get it in contrast, like close enough contrast, because Disney Destiny's November, Disney Adventures December. Like hopefully they're leaving the area around the same-ish time, so we kind of have a good like picture that's similar, that we can be like, oh, well, here you could almost like layer the pictures to see the size differential. Like that'd be so cool.
I think we will. I really want to see what they're going to do, like where they're going to do the christening ceremony.
Yeah, me too.
Because I did some looking, and I remember seeing on the Port of LA's website that it showed that the adventure will be out here in November. Mm-hmm.
So I think there's a chance.
I think there's a chance that
we might even be breaking news right now.
That we'll be getting the christening ceremony for the ship, which would be around then.
Amazing.
Because if I recall correctly, the Treasure's maiden voyage was, I think, the week of Christmas, but it had its christening in New York,
which looked amazing also. Yeah. Well, because they did the christening, and then they did the press trip. There was like a press trip, and then there was a few test and adjust cruises. Well, and also the ones for the travel agents, or the professionals, or whatever you call it.
Yeah, the travel professionals.
Yeah, I was like, what do they call them? But I can't wait to see how this plays out. It's gonna be great, and we're gonna cover it all, because that's what this podcast is all for. I think we covered pretty good for the first one, don't you?
I think so, because I don't think there's really anything else outside of what we talked about that's been going on.
No, I think we nailed it. So we will cover what updates we do get from Disney Cruise Line on here. We'll probably cover some of our trips as you go to Florida and I go to Tokyo Disney this year. And whatever else we find exciting about Disney Cruise Line and beyond with the Disney travel world. I think that's all of it, right?
Yeah.
So hopefully you've enjoyed this. If you have, please let us know by leaving us a good rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever you happen to be listening to this, because that will help us get found. It'll also help us know that you like what we're doing. If you have ideas, feel free to let us know. We will be easy to find, or comments are always very appreciated as well, because that's how we get feedback. Or just tell us, like you can find us on social media. Is there anything else we need to know?
I think that's it.
All right. So hopefully you enjoyed this. Let us know in the comments. Hope you're having a great day and hope you get to go on a Disney Cruise Line soon, because we hope to too.
Yep.